Well, at this time of the year, the end of financial year, you could reflect on the fact that when it's the new year, you make a New Year's resolution. But what sort of resolution can you make for the beginning of a new financial year? Gavin Martin from Cornerstone Wealth is back with us today. Got a few thoughts on new financial year resolutions. Gavin Martin, welcome back to 2020.
G'day, Neil. Great to be with you.
Gavin, normally it's New Year we make resolutions, and you know, the shame of all of that is that sometimes those resolutions don't always amount to a whole lot. But if we've got a new financial year ahead, is this a good time to be thinking about changing the way you do finance and that you look after the way your finances are in order in your own home?
Yeah, definitely. The financial year, so ending the 30th of June, starting the 1st of July, is a great time to potentially reset your financial direction. And that might be through a couple sitting down together and working out what their priorities are, what their goals are, and getting on that one page so that they can work together, help their finances, bring them closer together rather than pulling them apart, going on two different trajectories.
What you're saying is those sorts of New Year's resolutions we make at the beginning of the year, this is not a bad time to actually come back and just take stock, get an account of where you're up to. If you're a couple and you've got some plans financially that you're pursuing for the year, this is a good time to evaluate where you're up to.
Yes, definitely. Any time's a good time, but those significant milestones, start of the calendar year or start of the financial year, is a great time. You may have just got your tax return back. You may have submitted that, understood what your circumstances are. You might then have a good sense of what your broader financial situation is, and then you can set what your priorities are for the coming year. Great opportunity to really sit back, reflect, and then work out how you're going to move going forward. And that might be, potentially reducing some debt by making additional payments on your mortgage whilst interest rates are reasonably low, or it might mean that you're going to focus on starting some new investment, or it may be a range of things, but idea is to get back to understanding what your top priorities are and then focusing on those, getting your finances behind your top life priorities.
Of course, oftentimes we get our tax return in for the start of a new financial year, and we're anticipating that we're going to get some sort of a tax refund. I guess, is that part of what you could be thinking about, getting off on a bright new foot and having plans in place for the new financial year?
Yes, it's always a bonus to get things kick-started when you get a tax refund. It is always a great way to either pay down some debt, or it might mean that you can, buy that car that you were wanting to purchase, or it might mean that you're able to put that money aside for the family holiday that you've been working towards. But really assess things, because those items that we talked about, the cars and holidays and other consumables, it's good to avoid using or increasing the debt for those sort of things. But if you can do it with a refund from your tax return or save up the money for those sorts of things, that's a great way to get started.
If you were drawing a list of priorities, Gavin, what would you say is the top priority for your new end of financial year resolution?
Definitely the first one is making sure that you're on the one page with your spouse. If you're single, then you need to just make sure that you set down all of your priorities, getting those goals right. If you don't get your goals down, then it's hard to make decisions around that. The second one is reducing all consumable debt. So that's car loans, credit cards, personal loans, car loans, all those sort of consumer debt. Reducing those as a matter of priority. Then it's about saving an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months living expenditure, and then you can start to focus on what your bigger goals are, whether that's either buying a home or paying off the home loan, and then saving for those other items that are a priority, which might be a car or a holiday or starting a business, or whatever your goals are. It might be a mission trip. You need to then start to save towards those.
When you are talking about goals and things like that, does that mean a return to the dreaded family budget that never seems to balance, and actually paying attention to it?
Yeah, not many bad budgets actually do balance. Generally, we spend a little bit more or a little bit less than what our actual income is. But yeah, it's important to either a budget via recording everything you spend, or the other way that a lot of people work is to budget by putting systems in place. So if your incomes go into one account, you might deduct immediately any tax that you need to pay on that money, do your giving from that immediately, and then you'll put some savings aside or debt repayments aside, and then spend the rest. So you've actually put those priority things, your giving, any other taxes, and the savings or debt repayments, put them aside immediately, and then it's not so bad if you just spend the rest, because you've made those other items a priority and achieving your goals through that mechanism.
Things tend to get untidy, Gavin, through the year. Extra credit cards, extra accounts, different streams of income, changing jobs, all sorts of things like that. Is this a good time of year, beginning of a new financial year, just to try and consolidate everything, to be able to bring everything back to a simplistic system?
When it comes to finances, the KISS principle, the keep it simple principle, is essential really. The more cards, accounts, complexity that you have, the more difficult it is to keep track of, and the more difficult it is to achieve your main outcomes, your goals that you're actually trying to achieve. So definitely reduce the cards that you have. This is one of the reasons that we don't recommend people use interest-free purchases or interest-free credit card balances, because you end up spending all your time chasing those interest-free balances. You keep making your life complex, and you've got to try and keep track of them all. Whereas if you keep things very simple, use a debit card, spend your own money, it can actually work in your favour by keeping things simple.
Well, it does sound good advice to me, Gavin Martin. And I'll point listeners, Gavin, to your website at www.cornerstonewealth.com.au, and good time of year to be thinking about a new financial year's resolution. Remember that advice given by Gavin is general in nature, and you should visit your personal financial advisor if you want to take into account your personal circumstances. Gavin Martin, always a pleasure. Thanks for shedding some light on a new financial year's resolution.
Yeah, great to be with you, Neil.